my question to you is, take us back to the beginning. How did that even come about? Was your dad involved in that, an uncle? I mean, take us back to the start.
Yeah, I was really fortunate to grow up like I did. I never anticipated doing stunts ever. I actually wanted to fly fighter jets, and then by the time I was, 16, I already broken 50 bones. So my dad was like, "I'm not flying jets." I had impeccable eyesight, and high-end coordinating, all that stuff. I love planes. I started flying when I was really young, but that wasn't really an option. I was terrible in school, hated school. So I don't know if I get into the Air Force Academy. That's a long story, school stuff. I mean, I was really good in school, but I did get put back in second grade because I read slow, but I memorized everything I read. And then I skipped sixth grade when my parents separated in Colorado. I walked into school, and this is off subject, but back then it's different than today. Your parents just drop you off first day of school. I'm like, okay, I have sixth grade and then seventh, then I'm in the junior high, and I can't skip anymore. So dad drops me off and go to the principal. "Well, what grade are you?" I'm like, seventh. And she knew I was lying because I was in sixth. I'm like, "No, I'm in seventh." She calls my dad and she goes, "He says he's in seventh grade." He goes, "Yeah, do whatever the boy wants." Hangs up the phone on her. She looks at me. So anyways, I skipped my year back. I lost when I was in second grade, but from then I was behind. So it took me a while. I just didn't like school. I liked math and science. I did like history, but I did learn typing in high school, and that was the best thing I ever learned. It's like typing super fast.
Right.
So back to, I got into it with my dad. I mean, my brother and I grew up skiing every day, riding motocross. We raced professionally in motocross and skiing, and I grew up rock climbing in my backyard. I lived in one of the best places in the country for bouldering and rock climbing and just outdoor sports in general. So we had developed a lot of skills early on that kind of also apply. And with my dad being a stuntman, and that's how I got into it. We with like Burt Reynolds and Paul Newman, Steve McQueen. But
hey, did you say Steve McQueen?
Yeah, my dad did a little bit with him.
Wow.
But primarily he was, Paul Newman's and Burt Reynolds' stunt double, which he has a great story along there. So I grew up with my dad being a stuntman, and we just thought that was making movies was normal. So he taught us from when I could ever remember. I have pictures when I was like 4 or 5 years old with boxing gloves and this and that. And my brother and I we would jump off the house and see how high we could go. We were literally jumping like 15 feet off our house when we were 7 years old. Which that was cool. And I don't know how we didn't get hurt worse or dead, but we would purposely wreck our bicycles down grass hills to see who could wreck the best. Just stupid stuff, right? But that's what we did. So I guess just through him being in film and teaching us like how to fight, how to box, karate, techniques, around, because it's different to know something and then make it look good on film. And then you have all the technical aspects of film and safety. So, I just grew up around it. Unfortunately, my dad was one of the most famous stuntmen, and I grew up around him and Mickey Gilbert and Hal Needham, who owned, the Skull Bandit car, who my dad and Hal and Paul and Bert, my dad got them involved to do after his rocket car, stock cars. So I never thought I'd race cars. I always loved it. I was Paul Newman's godson. I was around it with my dad and Paul. But my brother and I, we were always into motocross and skiing, and that's what we did. And then, when I became old enough, I'm like, maybe we'll try driving go-karts and race cars. And my dad actually sent us to Buck Baker's school. And when I was 16, my brother was 17.
That's
amazing. I drove across country to meet my brother there. When I was 16, got in and we had a blast.
Hal Needham, Burt Reynolds, man, I mean, you know, I don't know if you guys, Tyler and Dominic, you guys were alive, but man, these guys were, like Stanton said, Hal Needham, he owned Harry Gant's car, I believe. And you'd always see, I mean, I would see him on TV. I was watching on TV. Stock car racing magazines always had pictures of Hal Needham and Burt Reynolds because they were big stars. So, Stan, if I want to ask, did I hear you right? Did your dad got them involved in NASCAR racing? Is that correct?
Yes. So when my dad, because he worked with those guys in films and became, basically best friends. Hal was my dad was Hal's protege, and when they met and kind of brought him up, and there's a whole backstory between different characters and how they all met, which is really pretty fun and interesting. But after the rocket car, which Hal owned, the Budweiser rocket car, when my dad did that and broke the speed of sound on the ground, they're like, well, let's go racing. And so Hal got involved, and they, my dad got Bert and Paul and go, let's do, a race team. And they went to school, and I'm not sure how that school thing worked out, but they got it together. So it was a 22 with my dad, and then just shortly after they put on Harry Gant's 33. And then my dad got out of racing that same year. I think he ran, 15 races or something.
Yeah.
And, so yeah, I kind of grew up around some amazing people that were both influential in film and also exposed me to race cars. I never thought, I thought racing was cool and whatever, but I never thought I would, I never thought I'd be a stuntman either. And then